Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a moment of silence, and I'm going to turn this over to Jess Purcell, please.
The moment of silence tonight is for Coach Scotty Maguire, who passed away. I'm going to read an email that Gina shared with the school committee. It is with deep sadness that we share the passing of Michael Scotty Maguire, a beloved coach, mentor, and Chariho graduate. Coach Maguire dedicated over a decade of coaching, leaving a lasting impact on countless student athletes and the entire Chariho community. A familiar face on the field and beyond, Scotty brought joy, encouragement, and unwavering support to all who knew him. His passion for the game was only surpassed by his commitment to the students he coached, always leading with kindness, humor, and a deep belief in their potential. His presence will be profoundly missed, but his legacy of sportsmanship, leadership, and dedication will continue to inspire. Our thoughts are with his family, friends, and the many lives he touched throughout his years of service. We hope they find comfort in knowing how much he was loved and respected by the Chariho community. We will have counselors available to support students and staff throughout the week. Flags will be lowered to half staff, and our high school principal and athletic director will meet with the teams and athletes impacted later today. He will be greatly missed.
Thank you, everyone. So tonight is our budget workshop. We have had another budget workshop prior to this. We have accepted the superintendent's budget at our last school committee meeting on February 11th. We will be having a district financial meeting next Tuesday, where all of the voters can give us their feedback on the budget, and then we will formally adopt the budget on March 11th. So tonight, we will dedicate most of the meeting to our budget workshop. But before we do that, we do have some business with budget transfers, and I will turn that over to Mr. Zenyan.
So I believe in your packet, you have a list of transfers. If you notice, most of them are heat related. So I'm asking that we can transfer the funds so that the repairs that have been done can be paid in a timely manner. Thank you.
So moved.
Discussion? So there was a question from the audience about the amount of the budget transfers. Greg, would you like to give a little bit more detail on that?
So we had to make transfers in $4,315 for plumbing that needed to be done in Career and Tech on the heating unit in the Marine building. Then we had to make repairs to the Caller to the main board. So there was electrical work that needed to be done with that, and that came to $4,222. Then we needed to make a repair to the cafeteria in the high school, to the speakers. The PA system was not working, which is a safety issue, and that was for $3,900. And then we had to do upgrades with our alarms and maintenance for the middle school, which included plumbing, and that came to $2,232.
Thanks, Mr. Zenyan. Any discussion? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting the budget transfers? It is unanimous. Thank you. So item 3 on the agenda is our budget workshop. There have been some feedback from the community, some feedback from the school committee members about the status of Hope Valley Elementary School. So I did ask Gina if she would maybe present a couple of slides and some information about Hope Valley Elementary School for our edification. and consideration as we are embarking on our budget workshop this evening. So I'm just going to ask Gina to start us off, and then we can talk about anything else related to the budget following that.
So if you remember, we've been having Hope Valley on our agendas every month until we started the budget. And prior to pulling it off the agenda, once budget was getting started, we did a culmination presentation, which I have here again with the updated numbers. Also, it's also available online. It will be one of the headlines in our website tomorrow, pending any changes that happen tonight. So we were asked originally to talk about school closure versus the phasing out of Hope Valley. Our current situation involves the enrollment trends that continue to see a decrease, as well as operational costs and sustainability concerns. So the question to the school committee continues to be, are you looking for a closure or a phase out? So far, we've been doing the phase out. We stopped enrolling kindergarten, and next year would be grade 1 if we remain with the budget that I presented to the school committee. However, the school committee now has the budget and is looking for possible reductions, and this is one of the areas that we were asked to look at. So pros and cons, obviously, anytime you're considering a closing of a school, it is a very difficult conversation. It impacts families, students, staff. It's disruption. It's sense of loss of identity. We have, definitely infrastructure adjustments. So those are all of the cons. And I think, many of us can see the emotional attachment is quite strong in our schools, which is wonderful, and that's something you want to see. The pros to closing would be, it's the cost savings. It would be more budgetary. Utilities, maintenance, and we have 4 old elementary schools, all in need of maintenance and repairs, especially around our heating HVAC systems, which we had explained throughout our information around our stage 2 application last year. Parents have, if you make a decision whether to phase out or close, they have a definitive date. The uncertainty has been troubling for families. It's definitely something that weighs on their minds, and staff as well. Students have the opportunity to meet more friends prior to entering middle school. Always an opportunity to gain opportunities to meet one another. And it will address the declining enrollment. And then it does allow the district to utilize the specialized staff for more efficient support services. So, but again, pros and cons to both. The phasing out, same thing, the pros and cons. The pro is that it minimizes disruptions because it doesn't impact those that are already enrolled, but it does impact families that had siblings. Allows for a smoother transition for the receiving schools and more time to plan spaces. The cons are the delayed cost savings, the prolonged uncertainty, the unknown of all of that, the continuous need to do our resources, curriculum, and instructional costs across 4 schools versus 3, and parents are maybe opting out to move their child to out there, and many parents did opt out already to move their child to the school that they would be assigned to if Hope Valley closes. So we did have a handful of parents that already decided to do that. Next slide, Mike. The cost savings that the school committee had asked me, this was updated on, and you can see it was updated after the February 11th school committee meeting. So the staffing is about $400,000 for 4 certified staff. You'd be cutting 2 grade 1, 1 grade 2, and a nurse in the reduction, and then $100,000 for 2 non-certified staff, a TA and a custodian. And again, those savings happen if nothing else changes with the budget. Like if you ask me to add stuff, then I have to adjust these numbers, but that's what we know of now. Our current building and maintenance utilities for the year, ranges about $195,000 pending no major emergencies. Our transportation at Hope Valley is about $85,000. Our buses are very light. Capital is about $95,000, and then our total budget impact and savings would be $875,000 if the committee determined that the closure was in their purview. So the other question that comes up is the current enrollment. What's the enrollment capacity of the current schools, as well as what's the enrollment look like if Hope Valley closes? So in the first column, for example, Ashaway School, currently we have 213 students there. Ashaway is capacity at 258. With Hope Valley closing, it would be at 234. So we would be adding 1 class, most likely for grade 3, based on our current numbers. And then you would do the same thing across every school except for Hope Valley. That would be the school if the committee decides to close it. There's 107 pre-K right there now and 128 students in grades 1 through 4. And next year, if it stays open, there would be 97 grade 2 through 4, and pre-K is undetermined because we don't have all the numbers. We have a handful that would return because they're 3 and 4, but those that would go into kindergarten and others would come in newly aged into 3. So the other question that continues to come up is always the classroom sizes. What does the classroom size look like if we do close? So at Ashaway, the number of classrooms in grade 2. So if you look at every school, and again, I'll walk Ashaway through. So for grade 2, the number of classrooms is the first number, and the number of enrollment, and then the average class size. So Ashaway would have 2 grade 2s, 48 students, class size of 24. That's what they have now. Grade 3, number of classrooms and enrollment, they would have 3 if Hope Valley closes, with 50 students, class sizes of 17. Grade 4, 2 classes of 44, class sizes 22, and then there's no pre-K there. And you would do the same thing for every school. Richmond would be the largest. The grade 2, if Hope Valley closes, they would have 5 grade 2s at 96 students, average class size of 21. 5 grade 3s at 99 students, average class size of 20. Grade 4, 5, 103, class size 21. And some of them is because based on ages, some of the students are not necessarily, they may be in a self-contained classroom and not with their typical peers all day. But that's what the class sizes would look like. So what I did was I added this slide from our FAQ, was questions that parents have asked all year long. So I took from the FAQ and then made it a slide. It's also on the website.
Excuse me, Gina, Tyler?
Gina, where was grade 1 there? There was no grade 1. It was grade 2, 3.
Well, there's no impact for grade 1 because we've already done, because there's no kinder.
Touche.
Okay, all right, so,
thank you.
okay.
Yep.
So I'll just clarify for everybody else. There's no grade 1 because there's no kindergarten currently at Hope Valley, so it doesn't impact that. So the questions that we continue to, well, I actually haven't gotten questions this year, new. I think it may be because we have the FAQ. But where will my child go to school if Hope Valley closes? The new lines are designed so that all students will be assigned to the school closest to their home. So whatever school is closest to your home, that's determined just based on the typical GPS mileage. What happens to teachers and staff? Based on the current situation, teachers and staff at Hope Valley will select positions at other schools based on their certification and their contract requirements. Based on our current anticipation of retirements and leaves of absences, et cetera, we do believe we have enough to be able to have everyone remain on staff who wants to be here. Will pre-K have the required space at Charlestown, including bathrooms? Yes, Mr. Zenian has walked all the schools with all the spaces. The pre-K classrooms will be designed to have the facilities and for their age group and for their needs. The impact on busing, no changes to busing. Every student is assigned transportation if the parents want it, and as long as it's the assigned school, and again, it's the school closest to their home. What if you want to send your child to a school that is not the one closest to their home? We do that now. Charahoe has a voluntary transfer policy where elementary families can request a different school. Those requests are reviewed and typically approved unless the current enrollment is already at max capacity or close to it. And the parent will have to sign off that they are responsible for their own transportation if they elect to do that per the school committee's policy. What will happen to the building if the school closes? That would be a town council decision as the district leases that building. The other 2 questions that were like frequent one when we first started these conversations, the other 3 elementary schools are old. Do other elementary schools have enough classrooms for all the children? Yes, and then we noted the capacities earlier. It doesn't mean it's pretty, but there's all enough space. What is the transition plan so students can get to see their new school? Every school will host a welcome tour for all families being reassigned from Hope Valley, and the school improvement teams will meet as a group to be able to plan for the event. That would include the Hope Valley School Improvement Team.
Thank you, Superintendent Picard. I just thought we needed some structure around that conversation tonight, so that's why I asked her to present that information to the school committee members, to the people in the public, anyone that's live streaming. So do we want any discussion at this time about Hope Valley Elementary School or any other related topic on the budget? Larry?
on 211, you said it was 1,145,159, according to the sheet you gave us, and I asked you whether it could be level, and now it's 875. How come it's so different?
Level funding would be $1 million.
Level is a
Yeah, but you said total would be 1 million.
That's everything on that sheet.
million. Yeah,
That's not
Right.
just
that
Hope Valley.
includes the fund balance, Larry. That
Oh,
includes
okay.
reducing the fund balance. from
That's also the
225
NEASC
to
and that's everything. So we're gonna put, actually, Kathy, could you put the sheet up, if you mind? I can have Kathy put that sheet up. So the sheet that that Mr. Phelps is referring to was a sheet that's gonna go get posted. That includes the numbers you asked for, Mr. Phelps, regarding Hope Valley. It includes Miss Chapman's request for the world language, and it has the district put in the NEASC amount because we postponed, as well as the BCI that Ms. Davis has brought up with her review with me, and then I told her I would share with the committee.
Okay.
So this one sheet that they're going to put up was comprehensive of Hope Valley
And
All school committee
reductions
requests.
everything
and
together.
everything together combined,
Okay.
which came to 1.145 million plus.
Right.
Pat?
Could you just go over, because this is a big question that I get asked, is about the Charahoe Act and the Hope Valley School. So if you could just explain that so that people understand, I think that would be helpful.
So are you talking about if we no longer enroll, like how we were able to stop kindergarten? So the Charahoe Act talks about students enrolling and then being able to stay at the school if the school exists. So the school, if the school no longer chooses to exist, then they can't be enrolled there. What we're saying is we just can't say, oh, we're gonna move everybody to Richmond and keep Hope Valley open. And actually, some members had asked that, oh, what if we keep some kids in Hope Valley? That can't happen. You can't just move some, which is why you did the phase out. Because you can't newly enroll. So if a school ceases to exist, then there's no place to enroll or to stay.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's been reviewed with legal.
Thanks, Pat. Other input? Tyler?
I have a question. Gina, can you let us know what's going to happen with the principal at Hope Valley School? Because I noticed that's one thing that's not on there. Where's he going? What's the plan for him?
So that was something we had mentioned back in the fall when we made the changes. So just for everyone's edification, Mrs. Scanapieko is his memorandum of agreement is that he is the director of multi-tiered systems of support and success, as well as the Hope Valley principal. We were already making shifts like that. It just started sooner when we started to phase out Hope Valley because it's been part of our long strategic plan. I know Linda Lyle's been a part of that work at the CALA redesign since I've started here. And the position, I think we put it into description 2 years ago, started to finalize it last year. And with the school committee deciding to make that change, we were able to begin the implementation this year.
Can
So
you give a little more background on what that position is?
It's online, so you can, all of our job descriptions, but it's basically a multi-tiered systems of support is identifying resources and allocation of resources to ensure students across the district are getting their needs met. And what happens is, like right now, our entire team is working on what we call our tier 1 teams. So Mrs. Scanapieko is going out and providing coaching, feedback, and support to those teams to be able to model, share, and support how you effectively doing that. We brought in a digital dashboard that teachers are learning how to use to make this more efficient for them. So his role is to oversee the support and the redesign, basically the resources of MTSS necessary for all schools to be able to perform and show great growth. I can give you the job description. I can send it. It's
No,
online.
I'm just, so everybody.
No, I know. I know it's a lot of
That's all.
education speak, so I
That's
don't want to.
exactly it.
Chair?
Yes, hi Karen.
Is MTSS a state mandate? Or is it
There is a
district?
state law regarding
State law,
MTS, not that you have to have, but it's a
Right.
cumbersome.
It is.
Right now, myself, Dr. Camella, Carrie Pastori, Sarah Chose, I mean, we've got 8 people, juggling a lot of different things, but there needed to be someone who could coordinate the entire initiative. And for us, that will be Jeff. And while Dr. Camella is, a great coach to Mrs. Scanapieko, he also has a job that involves all kinds of things. And like I know East Greenwich is starting their MTSS because we're working with them as well, and other districts, depending on where they are being implemented. Some are using the teachers union and doing different things, but it's a pretty large initiative, yes. And the law passed in 2021.
2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura?
So I been diving into this budget pretty deeply. And I came across a couple of trends in it that I wanted to address and see if Greg had any feedback on it. If you take the 56-page budget, which is not, I don't believe that we had printouts for the public, but it is available online to my knowledge. There are increases across the board for really small line items. And I identified 785 increases that are less than $995 each. So when you add all of them up, it comes to $217,575.54 worth of increases of these very small amounts. So when I go through and I look at the percentages that are, that make up those really small increases, it's a little bit confusing to me how those small increases are calculated, because if you look at the actuals for 2024 and I thought to myself, like, okay, so that's 6 months ago, according to when the budget would have been reconstructed. And then you're coming up with the 2026 projections. And a lot of those increases are much higher if you compare it from, with what is being projected for 2026 compared to what actually happened in 2024. And then if you look at what it says for the difference between 2025, which is, I assume, like an estimated amount, is that correct? Greg?
Specifics, Laura?
The 2025 numbers that are in those budget, or that's in the budget, that's basically like an
That's what-
adjusted estimated number, correct?
Yes, it's what was budgeted, so, is it exact? We won't know until the budget closes,
Right.
but yes.
Okay. And so I guess what I'm wondering, is it possible for you and your team to go back and pull all of those numbers? I could even provide you with the information that I have, the spreadsheet that I have. And rather than doing an increase of, because from what I can see, it looks like those increases, it shows a 15% increase if you pull them all together. And so I'm wondering if there's a way for you guys to kind of go back and essentially cut that number in half.
So I just need to know the line item. If you can give us some line, a lot of.
Can you give us an example?
One at a time, hold on.
So it would be, like I said, there's 700 and,
Well, how about
85
I would
numbers.
start with one example, please.
okay. Hold on, I'll find one for you.
A page number and line item would be helpful.
Okay, so if you look at athletic supplies, which is row number 6,110, it says supplies, athletics, medical.
Yep.
And I believe that's on page 51.
Yes, page 51. So if you look at that, there's a list of supplies that were given, and that is the total of it. So those are the cost
I know what it
today's
is.
dollars.
So the legislation for the concussion gear for the football, shoulders, and the headgear for the hockey, we had to include based on new legislation.
Yeah, but the line item she's discussing
Middle
is,
school, medical.
is it's the supplies.
Yeah, okay.
So that's their, when they give us a budget, with that number, there's a list of what is being purchased. So the tape, the Band-Aid, everything they need for their medical supplies for high school athletics. And that is what the price comes to. You can cut that in half, but then you're not going to have medical supplies for the year.
Right, we do this with the trainer, so for the athletic trainer, and we have a new one, reviews the necessity of the equipment and what she needs to be able, she's on staff, she's out at the football field, she's out in the field, to be able to make sure she's prepared for any student who has an injury or is hurt. So based on her, their request from the athletics, but I also know that the medical, I do believe we may have,
So, but Laura, if you're looking at,
Can I just hold you that right there, Greg? Let's just try to keep the sidebar conversations down because I can't hear. And then, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear clearly. Thank you. Sorry.
if you look at medical supplies as a whole, and not just the high school, you'll see that it's a negative 82% increase. So if you look at the middle school, when in the 25 adjusted budget, they did not spend, they ordered more than what they needed. We have it in stock. So we cut their FY26 almost in half. So the middle school will have the supplies they need. The high school spent their money, used their supplies, and that's what they need. So if you're looking at each line item, we try to group things together. So if we need medical supplies for athletics for middle school and high school, if we know middle school has stockpiled or they didn't use as much one year, maybe their season was cut short and they didn't have, they're not ordering as much, or some of that stuff is being moved to the high school.
Oh, it's less injuries, so we make sure, inventory happens of all departments, but overall, and I actually think that's a great point Mr. Zenian made. There was a lot of reductions in the budget, so you may see a line increase, but it increased, and we went over this the last time, because other items decreased, lines increase. A lot of those small lines that have those percentages, we even debated like putting those percentages in there because most of them were contractual, and they allowed, so for example, I did not utilize my conference last year. It's just no time to get away. But I did have it transferred for the heating of a school. And because we sometimes Dr. Camilla and I just say, well, then take it, and we give up, our professional learning. And people may not think that that's important, but it is for us to grow as well. But we try to find other opportunities for us to do that. But contractually, we are obligated to be able to do that work so that we keep updated. But it is in our administrators' contracts, our teacher contracts, certain things, and sometimes they use it, and sometimes, like, I know the IT went up because there's more cybersecurity needs, more work around that, and that professional development has increased. So a lot of the smaller ones are contractual, or like Mr. Zenian said, based on inventory, or like Dr. Camilla said, sometimes, we have a placeholder because certain things are every other year, not every year.
Okay, so I think that that's a little bit confusing though, because so I'll just do another example.
Wait, before you go on another example though, you're saying that you initially said there were 785 items that increased that were under $1,000.
Correct.
But the item you just gave us was not under $1,000 unless you go back to FY23.
Yeah, I know.
If
for
you're
that-
going
for
back
that
to
one.
FY23, you're not considering inflation over the last 4 years.
Well, no, I'm not looking at the one from fiscal year 23.
6110 in FY25 is $1,412.60. That is above the $1,000 mark you said there were 785 items listed as. So I'm wondering if you're going back to FY23 when it was $819.27. But I don't want to go back and forth over stuff from 4 years ago because inflation has greatly increased since FY23. We cannot live in the land of FY23 any longer.
Right. Well, okay, if you go to, that wasn't the right example. I think I read the wrong line item, but the one for, if you look at 713 salary stipends, there's a stipend in there for a trainer. And if you look at how much was the actuals for 2023, it was $165.71. The actuals for 2024 is $160. And then the 2025 goes up to $688.59. And then for 2026 projected, it's asking for, there's no change, so it just shows a 0% from 25 to 26. And you can see that that's on page 16 or 16?
Page 16.
Yep.
What was the line, I'm sorry?
So for example, if you look at those, just that cluster in general, and you look at the actuals that were reported, and then you look at the increases that were made for 2025 and 2026.
Though, I believe those are based on the PD, so that the right to read, different trainers, science of reading. So depending on where that person is, that money gets allocated based on the school that they're at.
Are you thinking 713 is an athletic trainer? No,
No, I'm just talking about.
So that's our science of reading. So that was the required professional development from the state. So we have to code it this way based, so you may see it, yes, much lighter in FY '24 because there wasn't maybe as many people. Or that the people that, depending on the school that they're at.
So Laura, I know that you have, because I can see her screen, she's very diligent about going through this. And do you think it might be helpful to send a copy of the specific line items to Gina and Greg? And then when we come back on March 11th, we can talk about this again, and they can respond to you
Yeah, I would
directly?
think actually coming into the office, I think is helpful because then we can go through every single item.
Okay.
If I get a list of every single item, I'll give you an answer to every item.
Okay. So that's just for those items in particular that I was referring to. The other question that I had was about the fuel. That is showing a pretty significant increase.
For
And
heat and fuel,
it just says fuel only.
where are you?
That is on. That is row number 6,137.
Fuel oil, Charlestown.
And so it's, if you look at Charlestown, Hope Valley, and Richmond.
Yes, so typically, that is for heat and fuel for number 2 diesel. Over the last couple of years, what you have done is a 3-year rolling average and then cut into it. And I did not feel comfortable with your 3-year rolling average formula and your increase. So I did a 3-year rolling average and increased it by 8%. You have not had a winter in 4 years. January 11th through January 25th, which is 2 weeks, 14 days, we spent $97,000 on heat and oil to heat our 8 buildings. That does not include Ashaway because Ashaway is natural gas. That's for 2 weeks. If we have 2 more cold weeks, you'll spend almost $200,000 out of your $640,000 budget on heat and oil in 1 month. We typically run our boilers for 5 to 6 months out of the year. You will run out of money if you have a cold winter and you continue the budget the way you have. You can cut that, but I was not willing to put myself in a position where I had to come in front of this board and say, we can't heat the buildings for February, March, and April because it actually got cold. We had a New England winter.
Can I just ask a follow-up question to that,
Yes.
Greg? And I appreciate the context of the 2 weeks, 90,000 plus.
So I just paid that bill, that's why I know it.
Yes. Have a command of that number. So for this fiscal year 25, just for the context for those people that are in the audience and live streaming. So last year, we budgeted 90,000 for that line item for fuel oil for Charlestown. You're projecting 99,000. Do you have an actual number for where we are with some of these line items for fiscal year 25? Are we running ahead, behind, for some of the fuel oil line items?
I could run a report and pull it, because of, the last 2 weeks. I've been waiting, I wanted to see what our next bill was. Because we were not here for February vacation, but it was very cold and we were running our furnaces. And when it's that cold, a lot of times we have, lead lag, which means one furnace is running, one's off. But when it gets down to, below 10 degrees and you have the wind blowing around here, you have both furnaces burning. You can burn 90, gallons of diesel in an hour when you're doing that.
Thank you. Laura, did you have any others?
I did. The other ones that I was looking at was the custodians. I noticed that there is an increase in the line items for, it's actually, there's, for Charlestown, you can look at that one just as an example. I believe it was also at the middle school as well. And so what it looked like to me is that maybe we added a custodian.
No, keep in mind, we starting on July 1st, we changed our price index for our custodians. They will be making, starting $20 an hour. So that is an increase. And if we are fully staffed, you're gonna, that is where you're gonna see some of that course of those increases that you gave, with that 1-year agreement to your non-certified staff.
We also saw a reduction, there's a reduction in the vendors because we were using a service. So we actually saw the reduction in another line that covered also the increase that you saw in that line.
Okay, because in 2024, the actuals for the custodians for Charlestown Elementary was 67,138, and then the projected for 2026 is 142,000.
If you recall, we had 11 vacancies, we're down to 5.
5.
We hired
So
staff. Laura.
that's what but I thought did you say we didn't hire somebody, or was it because of the?
You asked if there were new positions added.
There was nothing added.
There's
We're
no new
filling
positions. We're filling positions.
Okay,
So
so
we're significantly understaffed.
okay, so we added more
No, we didn't
resources.
add positions. We have filled positions.
Okay, so with that, is there, when you look at if you filled positions there, and so now you have more payroll, correct?
Yes.
I think we're just talking different languages.
Right, but a reduction in the line of the services. So we had a contract we were paying almost $30 an hour plus for a contracted service. So that line item, I don't know that one, I'm gonna ask my budget friends if they know that one. There was a reduction in that line. So as we fill positions, we're still budgeting for people that they're not here because we need them. I mean, the overtime list alone last year was incredible.
So I guess my question is that if you're able to, sorry, not adding, but if you're filling positions at a particular school, then would it seem rational to decrease the overtime because now you would have more people that are available to work?
It's not,
Well, if you told me tomorrow that all the positions would be filled and they will stay filled for the year, and it's not going to snow.
right, and we're not
Yes.
gonna necessarily open up all the facilities to everybody. We'll, we hold back. I mean, we open it up to all of the, those that request. So all of that comes with impact.
Karen?
So overtime covers more than just filling in spots. It covers like shoveling at
Correct.
Richmond and Ashaway.
Even during the break.
It covers when our pipe bursts, because our
they have to
heating
come in, and it
systems, and we
covers
have to
when-
clean it up.
There's a sporting event or an after-school
We've
event.
had 2
and we
weeks
have
in a
to
row
have-
where we've had nothing but emergencies and breakages, where they've been working to fix as
So
fast as
it's
they
not
can.
just overtime.
No, but, I mean, the hope would be that we would lose it, but right now, unfortunately, while we're seeing more people being hired, we're looking for that stability to happen before we can say for sure.
Jess?
So while we're on the topic of the salary overtime, it's line 699 in the 56-page budget. But that was something I'd also asked Gina about with the same reasoning. If we had increased the hourly rate, we would hope that the overtime would go down. We've already filled half the vacancies we had. One of the things I was hoping to discuss further would be a $50,000 decrease to that line item. Like, it would bring us back to the FY '23, but in line with, are you okay if I talk more about other things? So at the previous meeting, I mentioned that I don't want to level fund the budget. That's not in my goals personally. I think that I was more comfortable with closing Hope Valley when I thought we could have a long-term strategic vision of 3 new elementary schools to house all of our students. Now with the future of the elementary schools uncertain and that process still underway, I'm not in a big rush to close Hope Valley, despite some of the pros that doing that would have. I think that the ripple effects across the district are very large, especially for Richmond Elementary School, which would take over 100 of those kids. Charlestown Elementary would take on 100 of the preschool students. So really, that's not my goal for this year. I'd like to work on the elementary school plan more, separate from the budget, which I know is happening. But my number one goal, I don't know if you could pull up the one-page budget sheet, but I think that would be helpful for folks to see what the overall, the local increase. Sorry, what?
The one-page budget sheet would be too small.
Oh, okay.
But it is online.
It's online, but so the average overall local increase is 2.67%, which comes out to 0.62 in Charlestown, 3.72 in Richmond, and 3.25 in Hopkinton. As we all know, the municipal budget cap is 4%, so my goal with any reductions would be to get Richmond down a percentage point, which, according to math that we've done, is about $400,000 cut from the overall budget. So a reduction in the salary overtime, the overtime line was one of the things I was interested in. Reducing the fund balance to 2%, the Hope Valley Capital, because while I don't think that it would be in the best interest to shut the school outright this year, I do believe that it will close eventually, as far as consolidation will help overall. And then the world language position, or a cut there for 100,000, which comes out to 405,459.
So are you making a motion, Jess, to?
No,
Not yet?
no motions,
Can I-
just discussion.
Can you repeat yourself?
Yep.
I'm not sure if I understand your math, please.
Okay, so reduce the fund balance to 2%, which would be 160,459. Hope Valley Capital, 95,000. Reduce line 699 overtime, reduce it by 50,000.
Okay.
The world language position, that's in the second column of the sheet, 100,000.
If you keep Hope Valley open, you have to continue to maintain it.
Capital, yeah, that's just.
Is that, so maintenance and utilities is 195,000. Capital, my understanding is that's capital improvements for, do you have to include Hope Valley in the 5-year capital improvement plan, or?
If it's open.
If it's
If
open,
it's open, you do.
Yeah.
Okay,
And you won't get reimbursed because we're phasing out, so you only will have to pay every single dollar. Because RIDE would want us to ensure that we're going to put their capital dollars for the reimbursement for at least 20 years. So every time we don't, we had to pay dollar for dollar.
so if we're doing capital improvements
It's
on a
dollar for
building
dollar.
that we plan to close,
Say it again?
if we're doing capital improvements on a building that we plan to close,
I have to make sure that it's safe.
then
Yeah.
you would not get the reimbursements from RIDE.
No, you would have gotten them if the bond passing, we were using it as a swing space because RIDE allows you to use the money for swing space. They don't allow you to phase out and use the reimbursement to then close.
it's why you've done no improvements on your elementary schools, why you were deciding whether or not new buildings were going to be built.
Right.
So if you spend $500,000 and RIDE reimburses us 300,000, the following year, if you spend $500,000 and then you close the school, whatever that $500,000 went to the school that was closed, you will not be reimbursed on.
Right. Does that apply for the money we spend on the applications?
Applications for stage 1 and stage 2.
Those are required to-
Required, so you get reimbursed.
Right.
Right, okay.
But I just want to say, I would not advise a decrease in the fund balance. So again, you can do what you want, but based on our current stance with our older elementary schools that are continuing to have HVAC issues, I do think that that is something that should not be touched, especially after our audit conversations regarding our fund balance. So I would be opposed to that, but again, that's up to the committee. And as regarding the salary overtime, I think, while I'm very happy in that we've increased, we have not had a consistency with our staffing there yet. And we have an additional request coming forward around Terre Haute Cowboys. We may not even get the custodian I told you we may not need in Hope Valley. If the committee decides that we want more people using the fields, I'm gonna need a field and maintenance person. So there's things that have to happen, so I just need, there are certain items like salary, overtime. If you look across years, it's pretty much what it is. Like there's no padding there. This is exactly what we've spent. And while we have still positions open, we've reduced the line from the contracted services. So while this looks like an increase, it came from a different line. So that feels like the healthcare, we gambled and it didn't pay off. And again, you can gamble and maybe it will, but I would caution.
Linda?
Jess, I appreciate your recommendations. I'm a little concerned about cutting the world language teacher. I know that the classes are small now, but it might be a little short-sighted. That's going to be one of our graduation requirements. And so if we lose a world language teacher, we may never get one back. And because they're not graduating world language teachers and they're hard to find now. So I know that some of the classes are small at this point in time. I don't know if that's going to change for next year. But I just feel that might be a little short-sighted. But that's just my opinion.
So part of our intention of scheduling this additional budget workshop tonight was to coalesce our discussion around how we were going to attack this budget without waiting until the very last moment on March 11th. So I'll just put that out there. Jess?
I can understand that, but the public budget hearing is usually a pretty big time for public feedback. I think that's part of the reason that people wait. So I just want to add that to the discussion as well.
Linda?
I just have another comment. I know that there have been committee members that have floated the idea of having a flat budget, level funding. I honestly don't know how we would get there without closing Hope Valley. And I don't know where we would cut that kind of money to get to a level funded budget. That's just my thought.
Laura? Thank you.
I agree with you on that, because I think that, what I started to notice about what's happening at Hope Valley is when we, at this point, if the kids are being affected by what's going on there, and I think that that's really doing a disservice to them. The fact that the elementary school kids at Hope Valley don't have the high C program, I mean, that's not something that should be happening right now. And if
Ashley doesn't have it either.
Ashley doesn't have it either.
They don't have, neither one of them have librarians, and it's impacted the middle school because they're missing part of a librarian. Library media specialists are very difficult to find. We have been attempting all year, as have every other district. There's actually legislation to mandate everybody has a library teacher, but nobody can find them. I had an interview scheduled last week for a librarian, and they turned it down to take a job closer to home. So I just want to be clear that everything that happens at Hope Valley happens at every school. Nothing on the district end has been taken away from Hope Valley. And I just want to be clear about that, because the reason why there's no high C, and high C was a very small number of kids at both Hope Valley and Ashway, and regardless, they both are missing out on that right now. It's a great opportunity when the librarian brings down during those free periods, and they do some research projects and elevate some of that work. But unfortunately, I just want people to think that we're pulling resources from Hope Valley because it's closing. That is not true.
No, I wasn't saying that we're pulling resources from there. I'm saying that as the grades get smaller, it just seems to me like it would make more sense. We have, 3 other elementary schools outside of Hope Valley that are extremely high performing schools within our state. And, I just think that it would be one of those situations where if they could go to Charlestown Elementary School, then they would have that program there. And, that should be encouraged, in my opinion.
I think you're going to have a very hard time filling a librarian position or a school nurse when anyone who's applying for those positions is going to Google Charahoe and see that the school that they are most likely going to be filling the position in, or they're going to be the low person, last hired, first fired, they're not going to take the job. They're going to apply, get the experience for the interview, and then they're going to apply somewhere else and get hired. So I don't see those positions filling as long as you have the close in the Hope Valley over your head.
That's a good point.
So from what I'm hearing, are we prepared to make a decision tonight about Hope Valley for fiscal year '26? Correct.
Someone just alluded a short while ago about they want to hear the DFM next week, but we have taxpayers right here, right now, and I'm more than willing to listen to every single one of them.
I was going to get to that as soon as the committee didn't have any questions. Is there anybody from the community that would like to weigh in on this or any topic? Helen, please come up. Thank you.
Helen Sheehan, Richmond. I kept hearing the word contractual tonight. So when it comes time to renegotiate contracts, perhaps the continuing education that the teachers have could be at their own expense. For people who work in the rest of the world, that's usually what happens. Also, increasing the copay amounts for teachers to pay with their health insurance would also be something to consider, because in the rest of the world, the employees pay a larger amount toward the cost of the health insurance. I keep hearing the word mandated or the law on new curriculum. I think we might want to consider getting a waiver on some of those things. Also, for most companies, every so many years, they go through and look at who is in middle management, and they look to see whom they could do without. I also have concerns about closing Hope Valley, because I know there is a housing development going up in that area. So what will happen when we have an influx of 200 more children? Now we'll have to build another school. So I would rather see us make cuts everywhere and keep Hope Valley open. No matter who you are, people work on budgets. People in their homes work on budgets. And these days, people just think, oh, I'm just going to keep borrowing until I get old, then I have to sell my house and go to senior housing because I've kept refinancing to live for more than I make. So, and government is in that trouble too. And, I've heard it said that people don't really own their houses. They just kind of rent it until they run out of money to pay the taxes that go up every year. So the security of owning a home and being able to stay there only happens for people who either are really good at saving or have some other good thing happen. I would like to see every part of government look for ways to cut their expenses, to consider what it costs people to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Anyone else from the community like to say something? Mr. Cardoza? That's you, right? Welcome. Talk right into that microphone so we can hear you, and anyone streaming can hear you as well.
Bob Cardozo, Richmond. I sat on this committee for a while, down for 20-odd years. I'd just like to make the following observations. This is not a line item budget. We don't buy, it's not like the town. It's a bottom line budget. And the bottom line's too big. It's your job to fix it. That's the end of it. How you do it is up to you. It's not up to us. We vote on the bottom line. Regarding the fund balance, I asked where the transfer was coming from, or was going to. Didn't care where it was coming from. But over the past bunch of years, your transfers, they amount to about $1 million a year. That's a real number. And instead of putting it somewhere else, why don't you just take it in the reserve account for the fund balance? And we wouldn't go through, oh, we have to fix the fund balance. It will self-fix on the money that you've budgeted that you don't spend. And that's an easy fix. Somebody just has to make the motion. And in 20 years, nobody has. Why, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
Isn't that what we do? With money, no? The money that's left
The
over?
money goes back into the budget to the towns.
Okay. Oh,
Bob, come on back up if you want to comment.
I'm sorry. I guess.
It goes
because-
back into the school section of the Charahoe budget in the town allocation. Yes, it does.
You just
doesn't
transferred, where did the money come from for this one?
Let me be clear,
no,
only because
I'm
I'm
gonna finish
one at a time.
I'm going to finish what
I
I
have a town
started
council
to
president who's
talk.
being very rude in the auditorium.
I'm trying not to be very rude.
Not you, Mr. Cardoza, behind you.
Apologize. When we're making a transfer in the budget, we're taking it out of an account that no longer needs the money. That's why you're taking it out of it. It's a surplus in that account. That's where it comes from. So instead of putting it in another place that you need it now, you have to tighten your belt, but that money that you don't use goes into your reserve account. And then we don't have the issue every year, what are we gonna do with the reserve account? 20 years ago, when we talked about it, we got into the law of big numbers. We're in the big numbers now, we're at 60 million. 2% is 1.2. That's a lot of money. Right now, the towns can't afford it. That was my point. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify, we have 3 budgets for the Charahoe School Department. So the Charahoe has money from Richmond, Hopkinton, and Charlestown as a regional school district. Any money that is not spent gets put back into those 3 towns for the Charahoe school budget for the following year. It does not go back to the towns, it goes back to the towns through the school budget, through this budget. Just want to clarify.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Deb Sonfrilli, grade 3 teacher at Hope Valley School.
Welcome.
I have a lot of concerns about closing the school, but one of my major concerns is class size. All the studies I have read about class size, the ratio of teacher to student says that the lower the class size, the better the test results. So I just wanted to put that out there because most of the classes, if we do close Hope Valley School and consolidate, there'll be over 20 students in each class. And to me, I think that may be too much, and it may affect our scores in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. So did everyone have a chance and to the teacher that just came forward to give us that feedback? There was a slide that the superintendent put up about how classes would be impacted at each school. And if I'm just reading this across the board, Richmond class sizes, it looks like would be 20 or 21. Charlestown would be 19, 20. Grade 3, class size 23. Ashaway, grade 2 would be class size 24, 17, and 22. So there would be some instances where some of those class sizes would increase over 20, but there would be some instances that they would not. So I just, Okay. So her comment was she has concerns about new houses coming in. Yes, sir. Please come on up. Your name and your town that you reside, please.
My name is Bill Prince. I'm from Hopkinton. I'm retired. I'm going to give a different perspective because I spent much of my career outside of Rhode Island. I grew up in South Kingstown, in West Kingston to be specific. I understand there's consternation about closing a school. However, in my career in South Kingstown, I started elementary school, kindergarten, and Kingston Hill. It was about a 25 to 30-minute bus ride. It was. It just was. To address class size things, my wife was a teacher in Virginia. The last year she taught, it was 26 students in her class. And every single one of her students passed the state mandated tests. So while I understand there is research, ma'am, it can be done. I don't see, if you're going to even come close to level funding this budget, which there is a large percentage of people that apparently want that. I want to see a small increase. I don't see we need a huge increase. But I think the way to get there is taking and ripping the Band-Aid off and closing Hope Valley School. I know that's not a popular decision, but as the gentleman that says it's your job, you people need to take the tough actions. And it's going to be very difficult on the superintendent when you can't make decisions and get the people in line. And understanding that it's either this or this, and the this is a big tax increase. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Come on up. Thank you.
Jasmine from Hopkinton. First off, I would like to comment on etiquette. And I have seen some school committee members surfing the web while we're discussing budget items on their laptops, which is not very encouraging. But my other comment is, you know, closing Hope Valley is the way that you guys would like to go with the budget. What happens to the teachers? Are they spread throughout the district, or do they lose their jobs? Like, where's the security for them? That's the one concern I have, because they have dedicated a lot of their years and time to this district. And if they are going to be closing or phasing out, you know, are they going to jump ship because they know that the ship is sinking? Are they going to be placed in different Charlestown or Richmond or Ashway schools? You know, just that's my concern, because the teachers are important. And yeah, so that's my question and comment.
Yes, thank you.
I agree with you. The teachers are very important. They're our best investment, if you will. So one of the, they have to follow the contract based on the number of openings and closings. While we would be cutting certain positions, and based on retirements coming up, everyone would land in a position. So but the way that happens is based on their contract. So currently the contract has it what they call PSE score. It's based on seniority, professional experience, and their evaluation scores. They get the jobs from the HR department that are vacant across the district. So everyone who's retired or left their position for the year, and then those teachers across the district, not just Hope Valley teachers, any teachers will bid. And there's a little bit of a shift that happens every year. But there is a position for everyone. Now, it may not be the same grade that they're in, but there's a position.
Thank you. Pat?
So as these people retire, like, this is current information, so what happens if the longer we keep Hope Valley open, those retirement positions could be filled by someone else. Someone's retiring. You're saying you have, it's an attrition?
Right, like right now, they're calling HR, this is the time of the year they start to call, because they have to wait for 6 months with retirement for their appointments.
Right.
So then, we start hearing some whispers, I think we know of possibly 2 more, but they're going for their appointments, and then we'll have some confirmation around April, and then some May, and then usually by that June time, it starts to roll in. Typically, we've had like none at this time, and then by the end of the year, I'm giving recognition to 10 to 15 individuals. So, and we know Miss Merritt knows who's going to the appointments and who's reaching out to her for certain information. But the concern when you keep, and again, my budget has Hope Valley in it, but to everyone's point, when you keep it open, positions like a library media that are very small, and there's not a lot of those positions, those become harder to fill because there's not a lot of places to land.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is with attrition, because I've been through this with attrition,
Yep.
when someone retires, it's frozen. We don't go outside looking to hire. So that job is
correct,
frozen.
correct.
So that you have a spot for this person to land. So it could be frozen for however long you keep Hope Valley open.
Right, so for example, we've, in the numbers, like when we did non-renewals last month, to make sure everyone has that position, those individuals that received those letters, because they're covering for leave of absences, they're given that notice because we have to ensure we have enough positions for everyone if they choose to come back.
Right, so you're right, so these positions are frozen, retirees, because your expectation is you're gonna have slots for these Hope Valley teachers to slide into. So in the meantime, while this is frozen, you're gonna have to hire subs to cover these classes?
No, we have the staff. So for example, like some of the subs last year got positions when people retired. So we have not had any issues here with general classroom teachers. Our concerns have been around with long-standing library media, science or math positions that are hard to fill. World language, like Ms. Lyle said, those are once you lose those teachers, they're very hard to find.
I'm not sure, but if I'm following you correctly, you're saying that if Hope Valley stays open and as people retire, we're just going to freeze those positions and wait and see what happens. And that's not so if Hope Valley stays open and 3 teachers retire and we have 3 positions open, we need to fill those positions.
Correct, I'm
So
sorry.
we will fill them.
Right, so they won't be, you'll have to wait for the next cycle
Right.
Yes.
of retirements.
Correct. Yes,
So,
sorry.
like, I know we have a lot of a lot of our teachers are at top step.
Actually, interesting enough, we found out that we are one of the districts that have the least amount. We do have about 70%, but a lot of districts were in the 90s. So we thought we were high until we did some of that research as we prepare.
70% is not low, though.
It's not low, but we thought we were one of the high ones, and we were not.
So what I'm saying is, so you would have to look at over the next 3 years, how many people would be eligible to retire? Because you're gonna eventually have to have slots open.
We know we will. But right now, with the Social Security change, that impacted some more people to go looking into retiring sooner. However, but then with the pension shift, that kept people here longer. And really, it's about people's own individual circumstances sometimes. So, but we know, we have, Kristen Merritt has an idea of sort of who's ready to on track. And typically, around May, we have a good understanding about how many will be coming. The letters, like today, I got a leave of absence for next year. They start to come in.
Pat, is that clear?
It's kind of like a crapshoot.
Yeah.
That's basically
It's
what
a
it's
gamble,
gonna be.
correct,
Like,
it's a gamble.
with what I went through was, when we had to do attrition and downsizing, when people retired, we didn't replace those jobs. We had part-time people fill them, or temporary people fill those jobs, until we got down to the numbers where, and then, of course, with the post office, we did a massive a buyout to get out early. This was back in the 80s.
Right,
So
so
we've done that as well.
if you think about it, so the impact for the nurse is, even though we're cutting a nurse, we won't impact anyone because we have a resignation. So that's sort of like a neutral wash. All of our special educators, we still need all of them because our students are still going to other schools that need those services. So those are going to be reallocated based on so those are district. So our special educators are district teachers. Only our classroom teachers are specific to the building. Everybody else is a district employee and will be moved per the district's allocation of resources. So that means you're looking at the 2 first grade teachers, the 2 second grade teachers, the 2 third grade teachers, and the 2 fourth grade teachers. And we're opening up 2 fourth grades at Richmond, 2 third, so we all of these positions, the kids aren't going away. We need them to go take those positions. Like we have, the enrollment in 4th grade is a little bit higher than the other grades. So we know at Richmond, we already had to roll up 1 because they have more 3rd graders there as well. So we already know there's 2 positions open that will be open at Richmond for 4th grade. And we have 2 cuts, well, there would be 2 teachers leaving. I can't say that there's nobody else in this that wants a 4th grade because it would be open based on their contract.
So I just have Pat, is that good? Okay. I just have a general question, I guess, for Gina and Greg. And I know that we have some town council members here tonight from Hopkinton. So Jess mentioned earlier, and I'm looking at the 1-page budget proposed for fiscal year 26. So if this budget stays as is, Richmond is looking at a 3.7% increase. If the budget stays as is, Hopkinton is looking at a 3.24% increase. The towns, as far as I know, have not yet considered their town budget evaluations. Richmond was meeting tonight, their finance committee was meeting tonight to start the fiscal year 26 budget process. I'm assuming it's a similar timeline for Hopkinton. You're in the middle of it? Okay. So, for example, if Hopkinton comes back with a 3% budget increase that's proposed, and Richmond comes back with a 2% or 3% budget increase, isn't there a 4% cap on what can be proposed for, Sharon, go ahead.
You know, Sharon Davis.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi. You know, we only have 20% left, right? And we have a lot of our unions are in the process of renegotiating. So, and we need equipment. And so to just say, oh, just be happy with 3% point plus whatever, I'm not happy.
I didn't say that.
I'm not accepting. I'm looking for you guys to do better. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
That wasn't my point, but I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you. Tyler?
I just kind of want to address what you're speaking about, Louise, a little bit. You have to remember it's relative to size, right? The town budget for Hopkinton is what, $2 million, $3 million? What's your budget? Without the school?
Without the school,
Rick?
20.
No, your budget can't be 20,000. You can't pay your DPW and your police 20 million total. 20 million total. So it's relative to size. That increase is relative to size based on their budget versus our budget.
Charlestown, the school budget is half. It's
Right.
50% of it. Where for us, it's 80. There's a big difference in what we can do with the rest of it.
So I have a question for I have Gina and maybe Greg, I'm not sure. Is there any type, I've never seen the lease for Hope Valley School. I'm assuming we have one with the town, right?
We do.
Is there any type of termination clause? Is there any type of notification that has to be given to the town, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we return the way, and I actually talked to Andrew McQuaid because he did this with the 1904 building. He was on the committee then. We just set up the dates and times, but as long as, same thing, the condition, I can share the lease with everyone, but actually, Ms. Dinsmore walked Hope Valley today to see the excellent condition that Hope Valley's in. We make it look good, but a lot of the issues are in the walls, which I've said to people, things that you can't see is what's breaking down.
Okay.
So we send them $1 for each school each year. So if we don't send them the check,
Right.
we're breaking out leases.
It looks, I mean, you looked at the Ashway lease because we're redoing it for the 1904 building, so it's pretty much identical to that.
All right. So with that being said, Madam Chair, if I can continue.
Yes, Tyler, go ahead.
I have to agree with Mr. Cardoza here. This isn't going to be a nickel and dime budget. We've tried that. I've tried that personally. Laura, I've done what you are trying to do. It didn't work. It seems like it should, but it doesn't.
It just doesn't make any sense.
I've been there, I've done it. With that being said, this is a budget of what I'm going to call low-hanging fruit at this moment. There was a statistic given last year during one of the presentations that contractually we need, I think the number was 44 elementary school classrooms based on contract class size. If we maxed out class sizes in the elementary school, we had 53. We need 44. If we maxed out class sizes, we could go to 44.
I believe that was your math, but yes.
Actually, if we go back, there's a recording where you gave that number. I wrote it on top of my budget book last year. So
Well, 'cause
here's the option,
Go ahead.
right? Here's the option, and trust me, this is going to be wildly unpopular, which is why I'm going to say it, because quite honestly, I think I'm wildly unpopular with some people right now anyway. We could cut 9 educator positions out of this budget right now and be done and walk away and have a budget that we could, put forth. I don't think that's the way to go. We also need to realize that once we take Hope Valley out, it's gone. I can 110% guarantee the town's not giving it back. So when Hope Valley's gone, Hope Valley's gone. With that being said, Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion to close Hope Valley School in FY26.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion among the members. Jess?
We're missing 2 members from Hopkinton right now. I don't advise voting on a motion without half of the representation from that town.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this was a publicly announced meeting. We have a quorum. We're abiding to the law. I mean, it was choice of these individuals to be here or not. The motion could still get shot down.
Correct.
Oh, if you have a comment, just come up to the microphone when I acknowledge. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion among the committee? Larry?
I don't know if you can do it tonight. Could you show what this budget would look like if you moved every single line item that says HV on it?
HV meaning Hope Valley?
Yes,
No, we can't do that.
and see what the number is.
Well, I don't think you would necessarily want to do that because some of those numbers that are associated with Hope Valley would have to go to the other schools
They
with the
have to go to
student
the kids.
transfer.
So
The number we put up there,
Well, the fuel wouldn't be going to any other schools.
so
Or it
Larry,
would be
the number
going-
that was put up there was back in October, I believe, my first meeting. There was a detailed list given of what would be deducted, such as heat and oil, such as trash removal. And then there were things that would not be deducted, such as school supplies,
But
such as
it wouldn't be
copying
showing on the
costs.
budget anymore if you close down the school. That's what I'm saying.
That
So where would that
money-
money could be allocated
But
to?
that's in the presentation, that's that part of that $195,000. So all you have to do is subtract 195,000 for right now.
Well, the fuel oil for Hope Valley is at 160, so that means you only did like $34,000 worth of maintenance in this whole budget, because the rest is 34,000?
No.
So I think Larry's point also is there anything else that's coded as Hope Valley that is not part of the $875,000 in potential reductions as a result of closing the school?
There are other items, but they're attached to children, so we still have the kids and their resources they will be moving with them. So
Right.
what we pulled out are the absolute what we know we can save.
Right, okay.
fine.
Is that satisfactory to you, Larry?
But now,
48.
Okay, Tyler?
So Larry, just a quick correction. The fuel oil for Hope Valley is only 53, not 160. I think you're looking at the middle school or the high school. High school is 160, 875.
6141, right?
6139.
Oh, 39, okay. I read-
Yeah,
read
it's
the wrong line.
53, 625 for FY26.
Okay. Put that wrong.
So Larry, those numbers were run more than once
Yep.
before that report was submitted to you?
Yeah.
Jess and then Tyler.
Tyler can continue.
Okay.
Tyler, that's fine.
All right.
No,
Tyler.
all I was going to ask is Greg, the number that Superintendent Picard gave us, the 875, you can run that through the one-page budget summary and give us updated totals quickly, correct?
Yes.
Yes, if you want to just take the $875,000, I can
That's,
have,
that's what we're looking at right now.
Kathy, are you putting that in right
Do you
now?
want to do like a 5-minute recess, or you have other questions while we look?
So let's ask Jess.
Let's let them
let's-
do that and try to go through the.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Jess, if you want to ask your question, and then we'll have Jasmine address her question, and then we'll take a short, well, ask for a motion for a short recess. Jess?
Regarding the librarian at Hope Valley and Ashway, if we keep Hope Valley open and there's 3 classrooms there and there's the 2 tracks for each grade at Ashway, would it be possible for them to share a librarian?
The library at Hope Valley already is shared with the middle school, so they're missing part of theirs as well. So we already had that. They don't, because of the size, they all don't have full-time librarians.
Okay, but so either way, you would still need the same amount of librarians? Like, because if you
Well,
had.
right now, there's
if you
legislation
fill-
to mandate librarians, and we're looking to do more what EWG has done with the literacy teacher, who teaches the library curriculum and then supports as a reading specialist.
Okay, but so you already have, well, no, you have, that's still 2 positions. So even if the middle school had a full-time and then the Ashway and Hope Valley had 1 that they split, that's still 2 positions. It's still the same amount.
It's 2 positions, correct?
different way,
Because the one, right, there's 2, but the one at Hope Valley is also at the middle school.
Okay, and then I know you've shared the numbers for the revised numbers if kids are moving, Hope Valley is closing, but I'm curious which classes would be impacted as far as that weren't classrooms, so music, art, PT, OT, which classrooms that are not dedicated to a grade would still be available if we're moving the kids and we're closing Hope Valley? Would there still be a separate art and music classroom at each
That depends school to school.
Right.
And it actually depends, and also when, for example, if all the parents decide to go to the assigned school, it's going to be based on the selection. So if they go, okay, I'm closer to Richmond, I'm going to Richmond, then I can tell you, because we've already done the walk, we have all the rooms mapped out with Mrs. Martin. But if they decide, well, I'd like to go to Charlestown, that's a different look. But Mr. Zanian and the principals have all mapped out every classroom. Some, right now, I'm not aware unless anything on a cart yet. I don't know, but I know we have a lot of shared spaces already. But
Right, I know Charlestown has 2 options. One would condense their music and art into one room to move their self-contained classroom into what is currently the music room. The other option would have them in separate rooms, but not, the music room would not be its current room. And in Richmond, she wants to meet with her school improvement team to walk through the building and have their input into where she thinks she would want classrooms to be. For example, with their additional 4th grade classrooms at Richmond, she would like 4th grade to stay upstairs because Richmond has a very long tradition of 4th graders having lockers. It's like a rite of passage in that school. So they don't want to, for example, if you were to move 4th grade downstairs or to a different level, there are not lockers. So she would potentially move 2 rooms to make sure that all the 4th graders that are in Richmond are in the new, in that area that have lockers. So that tradition that has been for many years in Richmond doesn't have to change.
right, and to Charles' point, when we had talked about the enrollment and the math, because we did it by contract size, we took the contract, just to clarify, and we divided the number of students by the maximum capacity in the contract, which is not ideal, and I'm just explaining it. when we're
And
talking-
that's why I made the point. And that's why
I know,
made the point.
but that's how we come up with the number. We just took the contract size.
Correct.
And then we divided by the number of teachers we would need. And so he's not wrong. We would need less if we want to go to max class size. And I don't think that's what you're saying, but that's what could happen.
Yeah.
But to your point, Jess, right now, the classrooms exist. It's just, like you said, they don't look like the designs of the classrooms, that we all, we're hoping for. I get that. But they're what a lot of them are already doing. It's not perfect, but shared spaces are something that a lot of schools do. Our enrollment, we've spread out a lot throughout the building, so people have gotten comfortable with extra spaces that won't exist. But the capacity in the, may I borrow this? Yes. The capacity in the So you have the school capacities, it's based on the RIDE requirements for school classroom sizes. And while I understand it, and listen, as a teacher and a principal, the space is a commodity, always is. But, actually, I have my reading glasses, so hold on. So, for example, actually, this is the old one, sorry. I just want to make sure. The updated one is online too, in case anybody wants it. But the enrollment capacity at Richmond is 532. So we would be at 472. So yeah, it's going to feel like more. Like when people say to me, well, why does the Hope Valley bus ride seem shorter? Because there's nobody on the bus. And Dr. Pell and I were there this afternoon. They're half empty, where Richmond isn't empty, and there's more kids on the bus. So you're going to have increasing class sizes, all those spaces where we could spread out and do some more things, and Mrs. Martin did a beautiful, wellness area, and I get it. But we have to make sure our classrooms exist first. And I know this is a difficult decision. We have a lot of needs across the district around HVAC, especially with all the heating. We've been working on those, but in the end, this is a plan that the school committee has to let us know. There's only so much money. We understand that, and you make decisions. And right now, it seems like some of you are not completely there yet, and I get it. But the buildings can't hold that enrollment capacity.
Do we have an idea of how many more buses would be going to Richmond with 100 more?
Well, there's 70 students to a bus, and then, so you'd be maybe a bus and a half. Depending on where they live too, because sometimes we can't get up in certain areas, so if I have to add the minibus or things like that. But there's more kids on buses at Richmond, Charlestown, and Ashaway. So the bus rides for those schools are longer than the bus rides at Hope Valley, because there's 128 kids on the bus. And not all of them, and out of the 128, there's probably 40 of them that get picked up. So you're talking about 80 kids, like you were talking about kids, we have 3 buses for about 70 kids. If you go by them, they're empty in the afternoon.
Hold on one second. So there's not going to be a net increase to the transportation line, because we're talking about the same number of kids, but just in different spaces.
Not based on this. However,
Oh, boy.
if the committee decides to do some, adding bus, because there was a bus cut last year, and there were some concerns about that. And I get it, but if we do this, we won't have it. But if you add a bus because of a situation, then you do. So based on this, no. We've already included that.
Thank you for that explanation. So Greg, did you want to announce your numbers, and then, I'm sorry.
Everyone's gonna get their
Yes,
pen
I
ready.
told
So-
Ms. Roy that she could speak. So just give me one moment, and then Jasmine, if you'd like to comment.
Yes, I would. I appreciate the fact that it was brought up that the 2 Hopkinton members are not here, and I'm unsure as to why Miss Hopkins is not here, but Diane Teft is my mother, and she had major dental surgery, so that was this afternoon, so I don't know if she needed to bring in a sick note for that to qualify as to why she's not here, but it was unavoidable. So I do appreciate it being brought up that they were not here to be participants in that vote. But I just wanted to clarify that, she did know the meeting was happening and she did try to attend, but unfortunately she's at home right now with intense painkillers and, stitches in her mouth. So just to clarify that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Greg?
So if you take the 800, if you close Hope Valley and you take the $875,000 and reduce it to the budget, the percentage increase for each town after state aid would be, Charlestown would be negative 1.04%, Richmond would be 1.62%, Hopkinton would be 1.1%, and your overall budget increase would be a 0.68%. All those numbers are well below current inflation rates in New England and the country.
Is there any other discussion thank you.
Is there any way we can share that one-page budget spreadsheet? I know we've put it up there in the past. I would like to see and follow the math through, please, before we take a vote.
Okay. Is that possible?
Oh, yeah, sure. We're gonna blow it up some more?
Can everybody see that, or do we need to?
It's the contrast.
Can we shut the lights so the members of the
you want us to turn the light on?
community can see?
No, that's better. That's better.
Better?
Mike's gonna turn the light off, so it'll be a little bit dark.
Copy.
Yeah, I think so. It's really the bottom right, Tyler, correct?
What you need the bottom right?
So we blow that one up. Is that better? Can people see?
That's perfect. Thank you. Can you, I have a, bear with me
Who
for a
was
second.
speaking? I'm sorry. Tyler? Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Speaking out loud.
Tyler, you checking the math?
No, I was just looking at something. I'm
Okay.
good.
Well, that's your expertise, so.
Was there, can I ask a clarifying question quickly? Greg, Gina, this is probably for you guys. Oh, it's 100% for you guys. Was there an update? So I see there's an updated, there was an updated budget, one pager that came out on what, the 28th? It's
Yeah,
out
we've
on the
had one
website.
every meeting, so you may.
So state aid has changed.
Yes.
Yeah, because, correct, the poverty stabilization numbers were not included, and the pre-K, they counted them as full and they were half.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
That was across the state. Every district was asked to recalculate, and they're going to calculate for us next month.
Okay. Are we good with the numbers? Can we put the lights up at this point? Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
Second it.
No, we had a motion and a second already. Is there any other discussion on the members, on the part of the members of the committee about closing Hope Valley Elementary School after this fiscal year, at the end of this fiscal year? So no more discussion? Okay. Larry?
Now, the 875, but that ain't including the, I guess, the fund balance and the 8 fee capital, right? That's not including that?
No, the only thing in this number was Hope Valley. So there's still, on that sheet, a school committee request, we
Yeah.
have Ms. Chapman's world language, we have Ms. Purcell's fund balance request, and we have the NEASC visit and the BCI. So nobody made anything regarding those items. We only did the motion, which was Hope Valley.
So just for edification for maybe Larry's part, and I don't mean to belabor this, but there would be $875,000 in reductions as a result of the closing of Hope Valley. That would include busing, $85,000. Hope Valley maintenance and utilities, $195,000. 2 Hope Valley grade 1 teachers, savings of $200,000. Hope Valley cut 1 grade 2 teacher, $100,000. A nurse, which there's an opening right now, $100,000. Custodial, $60,000. And 1 TA, $40,000. Cumulatively, that totals $875,000. So those are the cumulative reductions if Hope Valley is closed.
And we make no other, there's no other increases that occur.
Correct. So that's what's on the table right now. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Okay, so, and then all those opposed is Jess. And it doesn't look like there's any abstentions or recusals. Okay. Okay, motion passes. That was difficult. Okay, are there any other, is there any other discussion regarding any other line items for this budget to discuss? Jess?
I'd like to add a bus back. Or I'd like to consider that. I think that we've seen how busing has been an issue. We've cut busing, and now that we have
Right now, we have 3 buses at Hope Valley because of the routing. So let me talk to Michelle and get some more information about, because I know, I'm thinking the same thing. But Michelle and I spoke before we gave you the numbers about Hope Valley, and I do think we'll be fine.
Okay.
But I know it's because of I know, with the,
So not a motion, but can you consider that and come back to us with some more information?
you
about
guys can still make changes onto March 11th.
Right, okay.
Because I know based on other things that are coming up with facilities, you may be increasing maintenance or field.
Right.
So I want to be
Okay.
careful.
Greg, did you have something?
Yeah, Madam Chair, so we have to forward this to the taxpayers and vote on it on the night of the 11th. So we have 2 more bites at the apple of reductions.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, thank you.
On March 4th, we can make cuts March 4th if you want, right?
Typically, I've never seen it happen. I'm sure you can, Larry.
No, so we have one more bite at the apple.
Right, because
Excuse me, I
So
take that
before,
back.
it says
before
no
we
votes will
adjourn-
be taken on that budget.
Right.
And in the warrant, it does say no votes
Yeah,
will
we
be taken.
can't vote at that meeting.
Wait, can you clarify what was just said?
Go ahead.
So in the warrant for the district financial meeting that occurs on March 4th, that's our big annual meeting where we have 25 from every town. Per the warrant, it specifically says that we will not take any votes on the FY26 budget. So that's in the warrant. So I can't change that now because we've already done that. But you can make changes on March 11th.
11th, yes.
So before we adjourn, we could make other changes. Okay. Yes, sir. Your name and town.
Greg Abadesian from Hopkinton. I'd like to thank you, Tyler, for finally bringing this issue to the table. It's been a long time coming. I know it was difficult, and I don't take any joy in seeing the school close.
None of us do.
But the decision had to be made, whether it was to keep it open or to close it. And this is a topic or a decision that should have been made months ago. So I thank you and the rest of the committee for finally doing something about this.
Thank you, I think.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Tyler, did you have a comment? Okay. Seeing no other hands raised, can I entertain a motion to
Madam Chair, I
adjourn?
make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Larry. All those in favor? Aye, unanimous.
We've got 22 more minutes. No, I'm just kidding.